Hello, so I have kindergartners, and for my kindergartners guided reading lesson, we're going to be reading a book called Inside the Box. Inside the Box are about animals getting together inside of a box and what the animals are actually going to do while they're inside the box. But before we get started on Inside the Box, I will go over some like familiar writing and like vocabulary words with my students just to like make them so that they get the hang of like what we're going to go over. So for example, on my little board right here, I go over the OG noise. And in the OG noise, we talk about like frog, log, hog, and then most importantly, just the different OG noise, just so that my students get the hang of like the animals that are going to be in the box. And then we'll also brainstorm a little bit, and I'll ask them like what type of animals do they think are going to be inside the box in the book. So we could say like, again, a frog. We could think a dog was in there. Just different animals. There was hog on one. And then if they thought a snake was going to be in a box, just different things. We're going to brainstorm, and this will be like the animal category. And this was just us learning like the simple OG, hearing that OG noise and like different things just to get my students started. So before we start reading, I'm going to introduce my book to the students. And if this was my book for my students, I would show them like the cover of the book. I tell them the author of the book, and I would discuss with the students what they think the book is going to be about. See if they can give me an idea of why the animals are going to be in a box and what they're going to get inside the box and do. Another thing that I'm going to discuss with my students, because I'm going to read the book to my students first, and then after I read the book to my students are going to read the book on their own. And when they read the book on their own, some advice I would give them is to sound out the letters. Like say they get stuck on one of our vocabulary words, or that they get stuck on a word that they just don't know, I'm going to tell them to sound out the first letter of the word and see if they can get the word. And if not, like I will work with them and help them like try to read. During the reading session, I will be walking around the classroom and asking the students like, does this match? Does it sound right? Does this make sense to you? Kind of allow my students to get the feel for it. And this book is full of like small words, nothing major that like a kindergartner could stumble on, but some could. But I would walk around and make sure all my students are understanding and knowing what's going on inside of the story with the vocabulary, with sounding out words and seeing does this make sense. And we'll talk about like the plot, the theme, the setting, the solution, and everything. After the reading is over with, I'm going to discuss the story with my students, and we're going to discuss all the different things to see like if they were paying attention to like the actual story and like the plot of the story. I'm going to ask them like what animals were in the story, what were the animals doing in the box, how many of each animals were in the box. And then I'm going to ask the students like, is there a word that like kind of got you stuck? Because for smaller children, I know they can struggle with like vocabulary that they're not used to or that they haven't seen before. So I would ask the students like, is there a word that was pretty tricky to you when reading the book in the box? Like, did you sound out the word? Like, did you sound out the beginning of the word? Did that help you figure out like what the word meant? And I would just ask my students like these questions to see like if that reading technique helped them become like a better reader and help them understand and visualize the word better than just seeing it on paper or just hearing it from a teacher. And then after the reading's over, I would just check for like understanding, making sure my students are all on the same page. And for those that don't understand like and are struggling with the reading and becoming like a better reader, I will pull those aside and work with those individuals later. So